Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to Muslim Chronicle. I'm your host Ashraf Zaghloul, and inshallah today we will talk about the challenges that faces Muslims with disability in the community. I'd like to introduce our guest today, Sister Rab'a Khidr. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And Brother Anwar Sayyid. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Rab'a, let's start with you. You were one of the founders of the Canadian Association of Muslims with Disabilities. Could you tell me, why did you come up with this?
Well, I am a person with a disability. I'm blind. It's a disability I've had since I was, a child from birth. I also have family members with different disabilities. My professional life has involved a lot of work extensively in the disability community, in the mainstream disability community. I came across many individuals from within the Muslim community with disabilities that faced many barriers that weren't being addressed within the community and by the mainstream. And I felt, along with a couple of other friends who were involved again in a different organization around disability issues, that we needed something specific to work within the Muslim community.
Okay, that's fair enough. What about you, Anwar? What was your involvement?
My involvement was pretty much accidental. I was involved with the Olive Tree Foundation, and the Olive Tree Foundation, they promote organizations and not-for-profit and this kind of thing. And then at one of their functions, I was the auctioneer. And then
did you do a good job?
I like to think so. I had a lot of people laughing, and I don't know if that's a good sign or not. But then I met Sister Rabia, and she presented what her whole organization was about. And I personally have a disability myself. And so then I thought this would be a very interesting organization to work with, and here we are.
Okay. Sister Rab'a, you mentioned specific issues that relates to Muslims. Where do you feel Muslims have special issues when it comes to disabilities?
Special issues in the sense that everybody with a disability is an individual.
Yes.
So they have other elements of their identity. They have a religious identity, they have a cultural identity, they have an identity based on their gender, coupled with the disability experience. And the fact is that as individuals with disabilities within the Muslim community, people are at a disconnect with the community. There's very little access to community facilities. There's very little opportunities for them to engage in programs and events, activities that are available and are accessible. There's, me having grown up here in this society, I had all the advantages that the educational system has to offer, but the advantage I did not have was to learn about Islam within mosques, within madrasa programs, except by chance where, I just ironically had the opportunity to go to a madrasa which was housed in my high school. So I had access to resources in that high school and, the key to the school to do what I needed to do to have an Islamic education on a Sunday.
Okay. What about you, Omar? Anwar, what's your feeling?
My feeling is that we have been struggling along with those of us with disabilities in the mainstream community. If you look all around us, if you recall, maybe just a year or 2 years ago, there was a big lawsuit wherein the Cineplex Odeon, I believe it was, or Famous Players, they were required by the courts in Ontario to provide facilities within their theaters to support people with wheelchairs or people with other disabilities to get in. Now, there are people that are fighting this battle for people with disabilities in the mainstream society. And I think that it's essential that our masjids and our madrasas, they don't have things like elevators for the people in wheelchairs. They don't have things like sign language interpreters for people who are deaf, for example. So I think it's essential that organizations like CAMD and things like the Olive Tree Foundation promoting this kind of stuff really is something essential for our community.
Are you finding, Sister Rab'a, a response from the community about this?
Actually, we've had a wonderful response. We proposed our idea originally to the Olive Tree Foundation, which is a Muslim granting agency. they gave us a small grant to conduct our research project entitled Towards an Inclusive Ummah, Muslims with Disabilities Speak Out. This is the report from it.
Okay.
And essentially what we did was we brought together various organizations from within the community to sponsor the report.
Okay.
And really took a model that's different, as far as I'm concerned, in working on a project within the community. We took an approach of trying to be non-denominational, of trying
what
to
does
be
that mean? Sorry.
like not ghettoize ourselves into a specific quote-unquote sect of Islam.
Okay.
Try to bring the focus on the fact that, you know, we're Muslim and we have disabilities, and those issues are common to us, whether we're Shia, we're Sunni, we're Sufi, we're whatever. As long as we say we are Muslim and we have a disability, we have the right to access whatever Jama'at we belong to, whatever, you know, facilities that we feel are our places of worship. We have the right to access them. We have the right to learn and experience Islam.
Okay, but let's talk about the access. Do you feel now with your efforts there is response from the community? And
well, the community is listening. The topic is on the table. We're talking about it. We actually, Masjid Farooq in Mississauga is under construction, and I had the opportunity to meet with them, and with some of the other work that I do within the mainstream, I chair the Mississauga Accessibility Advisory Committee for the City of Mississauga. And I had access to a tool that we have created there at the city for guidelines for accessibility for facilities, for accessible design.
Okay.
So I went and I had a meeting with the engineer and the mosque president, suggesting additional accessibility elements that can be incorporated in subsequent phases to make that facility a model facility for accessibility. So the dialogue is there. We're starting a dialogue, and that's our starting point, is to create awareness, to create that dialogue, and to be there as a resource to the community to start thinking about accessibility.
Okay, Anwar, what about you? Do you feel, is there challenges or?
There's tons of challenges within our community. For some reason, when it comes to disabilities, our community is too much in denial that this isn't the case, that there's another explanation for it. For example, I know of the Islamic Institute of Toronto. That's a new institution that's being built in Malvern. Now there, the people that are the leadership, they have a bigger vision, and they have, if you go there and you see that they have the elevators being built, they have bigger washroom stalls for people in wheelchairs, etc., etc. However, I was speaking with a scholar who's very well respected around the world, and he indicated to me, surprisingly enough, and it was impressive that he was as humble to say this, but he said it didn't even enter my brain space to think about Muslims with disabilities, what challenges they face in masjids, what challenges they face in life in general. And how he was it was very positive speaking with him because he was open to the idea. So now that I've introduced him to what CAMD is going to be doing and is doing, he will think about it, and he will incorporate that into his khutbahs and into his rulings or whatever else there is. So there's a positive response out there. We just need more people to respond positively.
Yes, and where we need to go now is we need to partner with community organizations, with specific centers, specific associations, specific organizations to create projects based on our recommendations in this report, to bring those projects to fruition, to address...
Could you give us an example of a project?
For example, we want to be able to facilitate alternate formats of the Quran and other learning materials.
But that must be available from other countries, or it's not?
It's not readily available.
Okay.
Right? It's not readily available. If it is available, we don't have the capacity to teach using those tools here. Okay. Like, for example, I don't think we have anybody that can teach a blind person how to read a Quran in Braille. I have a Braille Quran sitting, but I haven't found anybody that can make use of it, that can teach another blind child,
and
maybe.
That's a crime.
And do you find tools on the internet for this, or you don't find any tools?
We need, again, that's work that needs to be done. When we launched this project, we also had a forum on islamonline.net live, and we had questions coming from around the world on disability issues. And I was just surprised what a need, not just locally here, but globally there was, to talk about disability issues, to ask questions, to get answers, and to get support.